Hey, Veronica.
Hey, John.
Hey, sorry, we can get started in just a second. I'm just reading some really interesting stuff about today's movie, Den of Thieves 2,
Mm.
Pantera. Did you know that the actual heist from this movie was inspired by a real heist? It was a 2003 Antwerp diamond heist?
I mean, I didn't, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the rest of the movie was inspired by the paint drying on my wall because it was one of the most boring fucking things I've ever watched.
Toot, toot.
Toot toot, I say in a gravelly macho tone.
Toot, toot. Uh,
I
hey,
guess
hey, John.
spoilers for my opinion on the movie.
Oh, man. I had no doubts about your opinion of this movie.
Oh, really?
But then again, you really surprised me with Wicked, so who knows? You're a monster now.
Well,
Uh,
I was sitting in the theater, and I'm sitting in the theater, and I got a text from you on the other coast that you had just seen it, and your text just said, "Okay, I saw it." Period. And I'm like, well, that doesn't imply anything good. But when I got out of the movie, I texted you, and my text just said, "Jesus." That being said, the reviews for this movie are not particularly negative. I felt a little crazy reading the reviews.
well, is it compared to, was the first one worse? Is this another Mufasa situation?
Yes, another Mufasa prequel situation where maybe the sequel was slightly better, but you started pretty low. But no, I don't know. I actually think most of the most reviews seem to think the first one, was better.
Okay.
But it's not the reviews were great for this. They were just not the level that maybe I would have written. And I may be
Tepid.
saying on this podcast, but hey, who am I? I'm John.
And I am Veronica. And what are we?
We are the hosts of Box Office Time Machine, the show where we talk about the number one movie at the box office, either from the current weekend or weekend in the past. Today, we're in the present of the futuristic year of 2025, a year that's already getting off to a great start. My city, Los Angeles, on fire. David Lynch passed away today. And just saw this fun headline an hour ago. Trump names Sylvester Stallone, Mel Gibson, and Jon Voight as, quote, special ambassadors to, quote, troubled Hollywood. Hooray! Isn't that all just lovely? 2025 going great.
As I said in the text chain when you posted this, I bet James Woods is very angry right now.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I would hate to be like a woman in his vicinity, but I would hate that normally.
Or a man. Or anyone.
Yeah, that ad-lib joke was labored. It was almost as good as the dialogue in Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. Veronica, what is your history with the Thieves, Den of series?
It's non-existent. If anything, I have made it kind of a rule to avoid Gerard Butler movies since I've seen him in a lot of, I think the two most recent rom-coms that I walked out of were both Gerard Butler movies. They were that terrible Katherine Heigl movie
Veronica,
called
that
like
was
The
not
Hard
recent.
Truth.
That was like 12 years ago.
No, but this is to indicate how rare it is
Oh,
that I
okay.
leave a movie.
Fair enough.
It was that one, and the other one was called The Bounty Hunter with Jennifer Aniston. And both of them, he really struggles to be funny. or I really don't. Yes.
I was wrong. The Ugly Truth, starring Katherine
The
Heigl
Ugly
and Gerard
Truth.
Butler, is in fact 16 years old.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I saw it at a test screening, and there was a scene where for some reason Katherine Heigl had to wear vibrating underwear to like a dinner, a romantic dinner with him that I think he might have forced her to do. I don't remember the plot. The plot was very bad. And I was like, why am I sitting here? Why am I doing this? Maybe the best thing I could show as a test screening audience member as to how bad this is to walk out. And so that is what I did.
Their TV show host? Anyway, doesn't matter.
I think they're trying to compete for a same hosting slot or something. And I don't remember.
It says here that to give you an idea of how old this movie is, there's a whole sequence that takes place on the set of The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. So that's interesting. Also, The Ugly Truth, a famously terrible movie that people hated, made $205 million at the box office. It was a different era. Yes, so you're not a big fan of Jerry Butler.
No. So I am, and I guess we'll talk about this at length during this episode, but I find a lot of the projects, especially the action projects that he picks, to be so humorless and unfun that they immediately put me off. So yeah, not a fan, have been avoiding, had to watch it for this. I will say I do like O'Shea Jackson Jr. quite a bit, and I wish he would pick better projects. Off to you, Jon.
Now, you said Gerard Butler does not do fun action movies. The man is the star of Geostorm.
I've not seen Geostorm. Is that fun? As I said, I've been avoiding Gerard Butler movies.
I have not seen Geostorm. I've also not seen Den of Thieves 1. But I will say this. Going into it, I was like, fine. I was a little bummed that we were seeing a movie where I hadn't seen the original. But okay. I read the synopsis and I'm like, gotcha. This is to Heat what Fast and Furious 1 is to Point Break, a kind of dumber copy that's maybe going to try to be its own franchise. Okay, let's do it. So I went into it, and I'll tell you, I had a feeling that I wasn't going to like this from the first scene. The first scene of this movie is a woman disguised as a flight attendant walks through a hotel. She sees a cleaning lady coming out of one of the hotel rooms. The woman then pulls out a magic device and somehow scans the lock combination from the hotel room key that woman's using. She then goes and uses the same magic combination on a different hotel room door. The crazy thing is...
She has a MasterCard. A MasterCard. It's priceless.
What she did... was it a cleaning lady? I guess they might have special locks.
I did not understand, like, that scene. I was confused for a different reason. I did not understand the purpose of this woman. Like, what was she providing to that heist?
She was the sexy lady.
No, I understand, but like logistically, she was just chatting with them. It seemed like later in the heist, she actually, she was observing the cameras, doing whatever. But like for that heist, she was literally just looking out of a window. I don't know what she contributed.
Well, she appeared to be some kind of connect with Slobodan, and then she hires people for the job.
Oh, of course, Slobodan, the person we know so much about.
A character who, in the end of the movie, is very important, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves. It's funny. All like the reviews of the first one are like, oh, I like it because it's like procedural. It's so procedural. Same as I kind of like Heat, I guess.
I do
this
not
movie,
like Heat, for the record.
They copied an actual heist, and yet, so the characters are nothing. The dialogue is nothing, but then you can't also have dumb, silly magic boxes that copy hotel room combinations. Because if you're gonna do that, that's fine. Then just make the rest of the movie as silly as that. Make it a fun movie.
Well, that is, I guess we're getting to, I think probably both of our main problem with this. Because when you texted me, oh, it's like Ocean 11 for dummies, I was like, okay, I love Ocean 11. I love heist movies. Like, if it's dumb, that's fine. Like, you know, it won't be boring. It won't be a Mufasa. And then, like, I watched this and there's no humor in this at all. There's no one is having fun in this movie at any point. We don't really understand the motivations of any of these characters as to why they do the things that they do. And we don't really get the satisfaction of the heist because we don't really know who they're really stealing from and why they deserve to be robbed. Like, those are kind of the keys of a heist movie. There's supposed to be a big villain who's like too cocky and too sure about like how safe he can keep whatever it is. And then there's like this plucky group that steals from him. That's like the whole movie, but we don't get any of these things. Instead, we just get, to me, first draft dialogue. Like, there is one of the scene that got to me, and I was like, okay, this movie, I'm not gonna like it, is when Gerard Butler sits in some room with a guy we never meet again, and he's like, okay, we gotta go after this guy, and his supervisor, I guess, says, how do you know he did this? And he's like, I just know. I was like, okay, that's it. That's the end of, like, you're not expounding on anything. It just seems like that's the way that they chose to play him. But he doesn't really seem badass for saying that. It just seems like the laziest fucking dialogue. And it keeps repeating throughout the movie. It's just like one-liners that are supposed to be punchy but are actually so fucking lazy. It was infuriating.
I saw this with a group of people who I was happy people agreed to come with me to this movie, but they were all not happy with me afterwards. But at one point, to give you an idea of like the dialogue, at one point, a character says to Gerard Butler makes, I guess, a joke. And a character says to him, oh, you're a pretty funny guy, aren't you? And I and my friend Rebecca both instinctively out loud said, no, he's not. Anyway, I think I want to pull it back a bit. So the plot is a little strange. And I think some of your disappointment is that it's not actually a heist movie. The first one is very explicitly an homage to Heat. And Heat, while it has the famous bank robbery scenes, is mainly about two sides of the law coin. The cops,
yeah, sure,
and the robbers. And the original plot, from what I gather, of the original Den of Thieves is a similar thing. Den of Thieves is about a team of criminals led by Pablo Schreiber and a team of badass cops led by Gerard Butler. And they do the stuff of like Gerard Butler and his team. The cops seem as like even nastier than the criminals. And it's going back and forth and they trade blows, blah, blah, blah. And they talk about the different, the integrity and, things that matter to each group. Like a Heat. Then it ends with a Kaiser Sose-esque twist. where it reveals
Yes.
that the O'Shea Jackson Jr. character is
The mastermind.
is not actually a dum-dum, the like dum-dum driver that he's appeared the whole movie. He's actually secretly the mastermind. That's the end of the first one. He gets away. The other criminals die. Gerard Butler's cop gets nothing and is shamed for seeming like it's a whole complicated thing where he thinks there was a heist, but no one else can see that the heist happened. Anyway, this leads to kind of a difficult thing to make a sequel. The movie apparently like got bigger and bigger on streaming, found a strong niche. Thus, we get the sequel. They have the problem with, first off, this entire movie is only interesting if you think it's interesting that the cop character from the last movie would become a criminal. I did not see the last movie. I do not like this character. I do not care that he's become a criminal. Also, because I've seen movies before, I know how this is going to end. But then they also
That's the frustrating thing about it, though, if I may interject, is that the movie never does the work of even trying to get you to believe that he would switch sides. It was never plausible that he would. It was just like, to me, I was like, I think he's just, like trying to one-up him, or it's either that or the script is terrible because they give us no reason to believe that he could. So it was just like, okay, so I guess he must not be like actually in with these guys. And it was almost disappointing when they did that, because also that was kind of anticlimactic, but we can get back to that.
Another problem is with the O'Shea Jackson character, where because they do the switcheroo in the first movie, and again, I want to give the benefit of the doubt. I have not seen the first movie, so I'm not positive about what I'm saying. And so
this has not gotten you to try to see it.
I rushed home and watched it, but no, like they have the problem in this movie where they're like, well, is he a schmuck or is he the mastermind? How are we going to play him? His dynamic with Gerard Butler is more fun if he's kind of the schmuck. But he's also, as the last movie revealed, a mastermind. So his character is kind of baffling in this, where he's just like a complete dumbass, but also knows 83 languages and knows exactly how to break into all these places. It's just ridiculous. The characters are hollow at their core. This movie, I was thinking about this. I don't know if this is something I came up with or I'm just taking it from someone else. So tell me if you've heard this before. Have you ever heard, when I was watching this movie, I was like, oh, this is a that scene movie. A movie where every plot beat is so generic and so exactly what you expect is going to happen that when each scene starts, you go, oh, it's time for that scene.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if anyone has verbalized it officially, but yes, I can relate to this and I understand what you're saying. Yes.
And I think one of the worst that scenes in this movie is the scene where the two characters tell their tragic backstories, which was one of the worst scenes I've ever seen in my life. If you haven't seen this movie, audience, I want you right now. You have 10 seconds. Come up with a tragic backstory for a thief and a tragic backstory for a cop. Done? You probably came up with their tragic backstories. They are the most generic things imaginable. And
they go on forever.
It's like an 8-minute long scene. And like this is the diner. This is like supposed to be like, I guess, the restaurant scene from Heat. But it goes on.
It's the shawarma takeout place scene. It's now been replaced in the pantheon of good guy, bad guy conversations. The midnight shawarma chat.
To give you an idea, O'Shea Jackson's character, he tells the story. He goes, my dad died when I was little. And my mom, she just didn't have. She had to care for my siblings and I. She just didn't have the money. So for one Christmas, she couldn't get us any gifts, and I could tell how upset she was. Then we moved. Then I went to a magnet school, and I had to walk. I had to walk every day 3 miles to go to school. If you're writing that in your script, please take it out. I had to walk 3 miles to go to school. That's like a joke of. Anyway, I had to walk 3 miles every day to go to school, and I would walk by rich houses. Then the next Christmas rolled around, and my mom again didn't have the money to buy any gifts. And I started thinking, if I went into those houses, I could make her happy. So like I said, it's not about the money. It's about whether I can get in and out. I'm sorry, sir. From the story you just told, it's about the money. It's literally entirely about the money. Did
But
two
also,
writers write that story?
But also, the story has no ending, right? So, like, he never says, like, what happened when he broke into these houses. Like, did he then provide for his family? It just kind of hangs there. I was like, and it just never comes back. Like, you know, if you take the time to show us, like, an anecdote from someone's past, it should reflect on, like, something that they end up doing in the movie going forward. But it's just like a time for them to share stories that have zero impact on the rest of the plot or on their character development.
I feel like we should talk, because this movie isn't terrible. It absolutely is not terrible. It's most likely not going to be my least. We still haven't done our 2024 best of year. If this would count for next year. It came out in 2025. But if I was doing it for this would not be in my, like, there are movies I hated more than this that are going to be in my worst movies of 2024 list. This will not get there. So this movie isn't terrible. So we can talk about some of the things we liked. But first, I want to remain in the depths of negativity for a little bit longer. I wrote down all the product placement that I saw in this movie.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Can I guess some of them? I'm trying.
Yeah, you know what? If you want, let's
see if they were prominent enough for me to notice them too.
Well, the first one is it started with the first one, which is one of the most, is like a 30 Rock joke in how absurdly blatant it is.
Oh, wow. Well, there was a bunch of alcohol that got product placed.
A number of those.
There was the Porsche, so many Porsches.
It's mostly alcohol in cars. It's almost all beverages in cars.
I'm trying to think what else you think was
and tech apps for some reason.
I'm trying to think what else was there that was so blatant. All right, give it to me. I might have forgotten.
In one of the first scenes featuring Gerard Depardieu, I almost said, Gerard Butler's character, Big Nick, the cop, he goes into a meeting with his superior. You already mentioned this scene, but you didn't mention how the scene begins. He sits down across the table from his colleague. They are silent. In front of them is a tray featuring 4 Pepsi cans
LaCroix!
And 4 LaCroix cans. Big Nick picks up the Pepsi and eagerly drinks it. His colleague picks up the LaCroix, looks Gerard Butler in the face and says, 0 calories in this one, and begins drinking. They both enjoy their beverage for 5 seconds while waiting for their superior. That's a real scene in this movie. Later in the movie, all of the heist people make sure to tell each other to communicate only over Signal.
Well, I would imagine Signal was not like providing. Signal is a nonprofit. I don't think they would sponsor Den of Thieves.
Is it? Oh, okay. Well, all right. Maybe you're. I was thinking they were the one owned by Meta, but I guess that's WhatsApp.
No, that's WhatsApp.
Okay. Well, you know what? Then I'll say the next one that I'm not sure of. He's called a Marlboro Man. And we see him
yeah.
smoking Marlboros. I don't know if legally cigarettes are allowed to do product placement. So that one might have just been a character choice. And that is written into
But also just bad writing because he doesn't look like Marlboro Man at all.
And that's an incredibly and that is the woman who says this would have been born, I think, 20 years after that that ad campaign was stopped. When was the last Marlboro Man? The Marlboro Man ad campaign was ended in 1999.
Wow, so maybe she was born.
The female lead of this movie, she was born in 1990, so maybe.
Yeah. She grew up with Marlboro Man. She had Marlboro Man
not
toys.
American, so anyway, we see our
maybe
Johnny
they had longer shelf life in Serbia.
We see our Johnny Walker bottles. We see our Ciroc bottles, and we all order delicious Stella beer.
Yeah. Oh God.
There
there was
were
a lot of Stellas.
So many cars. Well, Porsche's name dropped many, many times. But I'm not a gearhead enough to have written those down. But this, it was just. It was really the Pepsi scene that drove me fucking insane. I was upset at the end that he drank a bottle of water and not Pepsi in the last scene where they let dribbles of water dribble down his beard for the entire climax of the movie because Big Nick's a mess. Here, do you find Big Nick fun or interesting?
No, as I mentioned earlier, I find him unfun. He all the male stereotypes in this movie are okay, a bit of background. I was born in Eastern Europe. The types of movies that the adult men around me would watch is humorless, Steven Seagal or even lower rate action movies, usually dubbed in Russian by a single man. And these would if Den of Thieves had come out then, they would be all over it because they would think that he's such a badass. And I resented those movies so much growing up, and I feel that same sort of, it's not even toxic masculinity, it's just humorless, unfun masculinity that I feel again Gerard Butler displays in a lot of his movies. Would be the type of thing that those Eastern European men would be super into. So yeah, I don't think he's fun. I don't think he's badass. I don't even think he's particularly smart. I don't know why his character is interesting at all. Do you, John?
No. I mean, no. And Gerard Butler's going for it in this performance. He's being as gross as he possibly can be. He looks like shit, but as a character choice.
But do you think it's a character choice? Because as I was watching it, I was like, oh, Gerard Butler has aged.
I don't... No one in this movie looks great. I'm going to be honest. I am not an in-shape guy. The heist involves them running up a wall, almost like an 80-degree incline, running up it. And I watched that scene and went, literally, none of these men could do that.
I thought the same thing, too.
None of these men could do that. The older, safe guy? Absolutely not. The overweight guy? He goes first. Or the stuntman who's supposed to be him goes first. No. O'Shea Jackson? Maybe in Den of Thieves 1? I don't think he could have done it in this movie. It was...
But also not even the running up the wall. They also have the scene where they climb down that improvised walking stick shaped thing. And I was like, none of them have the core strength to hold themselves. I don't believe for a second. Or even worse, inside the elevator, when they are at one point inside an elevator shaft that first they have to descend down all the way to the bottom, and then by the end of the heist they have to go all the way up in a timely fashion, using those like the type of like rappelling grips that you kind of stand up and then you kind of hoist yourself up. I don't think these men could do this.
Okay. This movie is, I think I saw someone, I think it was Rotten Tomatoes, described it as dad cinema. And 100%, this is a movie for dads. This is
a certain kind of dad.
Oh, a certain kind of dads. I do not think my dad would enjoy this. But yes, like you said, it's the movie for dads who would rent a Steven Seagal movie off of Redbox. And you then say to your dad, like, come on, Dad, you can do better than that. This is the Chipotle to that's Taco Bell. It's still crap, but it is one step nicer. Like, money went into this. It looks pretty nice. But I think, like, one of the funny things is, it's clearly, there's nothing in this movie that would antagonize a dad. There are no, like, young, handsome bucks that would make a dad feel bad. Every man in this movie looks like the dad who would enjoy this movie, yet can do whatever he wants. There is a beautiful woman. Does she come on to Gerard Butler? Kind of.
Oh,
I have a feeling
was so
that
yucky.
I have a feeling that he got on set and they were like, "Oh, this is not believable." I know. Let's have them on ecstasy. That will explain it.
I was genuinely uncomfortable in my seat when he got that close to her. I was like, this is...
And they look
I'm
believably disgusting in that scene. They look like people who have been doing shot after shot and are rolling on ecstasy. They are dripping with sweat.
Yeah. So I guess you know what? Score 1 for the movie. That was believable.
Yeah. But I think this all comes back, this kind of dadness. Gerard Butler is the kind of man that would make that kind of guy be like, yeah. Like, he comes over with such a, like, weirdly out-of-date, swaggering, like, Americana. Like, we get that scene of the American cop at first not meshing well with the hoity-toity European cops. But it's like every scene, it's the dumbest version of the world. Dumbest version of that scene. What French word can he not say? Croissant. I'm sorry. Even a dumb American knows how to pronounce croissant. He says croissant.
Or he would not say it the way that he did it initially. He said it in such a weird way. It was like croissant or something. It was so bizarre. It wasn't even I guess like the way people mispronounce it mostly. But that scene was so painful because it was just like, okay, this is your Royale with cheese moment. This is what you're doing. I was grimacing. All the dialogue is so bad. I just can't stress enough how like there was no rewrites on this movie. Like someone knocked out a draft, sent it over to Jerry Butler. Jerry Butler was like, okay, I need money. Let's go. And that's all it was.
It's the kind of movie where they're getting, suddenly the mafia comes and throws them into cars to take them away. And Gerard Butler, in one of his classic quips, goes, "I didn't call an Uber."
I do regret not having. It was a full screening, so I couldn't like be on my phone and take notes. But there were so many just duds of dialogue, just so many just laden lines that go nowhere. There was like, I wish I wrote them down. And then I thought to myself, oh, you can go on IMDb, go and see the quotes. And of course, no one would quote this shit. It's not like any of these lines are good. So they're lost.
The dialogue isn't good. The characters aren't interesting. And the heist, despite being based on a regular thing, like the stuff they do, the heist itself, I'll be honest. You give me scenes where there's a counting down, where someone's counting down and the guy's got to jump through a door, but the other guy's going first. Yes, that's going to be like, I'm going to enjoy that. The heist was fine, but overall the movie was
thought the heist was entertaining. I enjoyed the heist.
Heists are great, but everything until the heist was dreadfully boring. But I think we should move on to things that we actually liked. I noticed when on Letterboxd, you gave this 3 whole stars.
No, that was a mistake. I have since changed it. It's 2.5 now, which I think you're at 2, so I'm still a bit higher than you. But I think it was mostly because I thought, as vocal as I am right now and angry seeming as I am, I'm not that angry. I expected to hate this, and I thought it was fine. I thought the dialogue was really bad. The heist was pretty entertaining, in my opinion, and the plot was not offensive. Like, I wasn't like, the things, as you said, there were a lot of just that scene, but they made sense. I was not just like, what the fuck is happening right now? What are you doing? It was all just like very by the numbers. So I feel like I can't give it like a 2-star, because that feels almost like you're starting to shit the bed, whereas like, I don't think this is shitting the bed necessarily.
Let me see. I think I gave... My rating system changes with each year. I'm constantly... So other recent movies I've seen, which is a later section of this show, but fucking...
Well, what have you seen recently that you gave 2
stars? Well, I'll
stars
spoil a couple of them. There are 2 movies I saw recently that I gave 2.5. I gave Carry On with Taron Egerton 2.5. And I gave Escape from LA 2.5. Escape from LA, the movie we watched while waiting to maybe evacuate during
maybe Escape LA.
But here's the thing. Those are both movies I didn't like. Carry On, though, has a premise that I think is wonderful and has some fun performances. I just think it's incredibly dumb. Escape from LA is... Every scene seems like it might be fun. You're constantly like, everyone's wrong. This is going to get fun any minute. And then it falls apart. Den of Thieves 2, I would not say it's definitely more, it looks better than Escape from LA. I'll say that much. But it's just boring. And I think that's why, again, I didn't like hate this movie or anything. I was just bored the whole time. But yeah, let's talk about what works. I'll start like what I was saying. It looks very nice, and the locations, the European locations, all look great.
Yeah, I thought they made a good use. I feel like Nice doesn't really appear in a lot of movies, or at least American movies. So it was kind of cool to see Nice a bunch. I thought it looked solid. I thought the car chase at the end was pretty good. Again, maybe because of the terrain. It was kind of on the border with Italy, and it looked very kind of James Bondy to go through, the looping roads of southern France. So yeah, I thought all that stuff was pretty good. I also thought that I kind of liked one of the older heist guys, like in their crew. I thought he was kind of like
the safe guy.
Yeah, the safe guy. I thought there was like, he probably was the most kind of character where I was like, what is his deal? Everyone else, I was like, yeah, I know what your deal is.
I didn't dislike any of the performances. I think everyone is doing exactly what they're asked. And like I said, while I found the Big Nick character incredibly tiresome, I think Gerard Butler is throwing himself in. I think O'Shea Jackson, who is if you've never seen Ingrid Goes West, one of the most charismatic performances. A bunch of great performances in that movie. Billy Magnuson. But I think he can be so charismatic. I think he's at sea. I have to see the first one to see if it's like I theorize, just a problem of they don't know who this character is after the twist. But I'm not going to see the first movie, so I'll just have to register that as a guess. But everyone's doing what they're asked to do. Maybe it is, and the movie looks great. Maybe it is just the screenplay is just nothing. This is the movie where at the end they seem like they're about to die, and then of course, like they're in a crash car and people are walking over with guns. So it's that scene where someone a surprise shoots the guys from off camera, and so you're waiting for it to happen. It happens. And then it turns out, the mafia guys saved them. Then, spoilers, who cares? O'Shea Jackson gets arrested, and but someone's here to save him. It's the mafia guys. It's just the same thing twice in a row.
But I'm very confused about, especially the first time, why did the mafia guys rescue them like with no strings attached? It felt so the mafia guys are introduced because in the first heist, in the beginning of the movie, O'Shea Jackson Jr. steals a diamond that they own. And that is a way for him to kind of ingratiate himself with the diamond district of Nice so that he can then later break into their safe. So they are angry at him. The previous scene that we saw them interact with them, they threw them into the sea and forced them to swim back. So they're not fans of them. And so I would totally buy that they would come to their aid, like to get their diamond back, but to then just walk away and not also grab the rest of their shit and rob them, just that felt very off to me. I was like, so they just literally basically risked their lives in order to come to the aid of these people who stole from them, and then they literally just take the one thing they're owed and walk away. That just felt very unbelievable to me.
Well, they're mafia guys, they got such a code of honor. I don't know.
Like they never talk about a code of honor. They never. It just felt like, okay, so these guys are gonna rob them, and this is gonna be fun. Like, and maybe at the end they kind of rob them again. I don't know, whatever. But it could have been more fun.
The whole mafia subplot is purely there to set up a sequel, which I guess it's not an interesting setup.
Den of Thieves, as established.
You can imagine what's really just the fact that they save him twice. That whole last scene where he gets busted out, that should be the opening scene of the next movie.
Yeah, we did not need that. I guess they didn't want the audience to leave the theater thinking that Gerard Butler was a bad guy. So maybe they were like, okay, we got to show that he still, has fondness for. Also, he keeps calling him Frownline, which is so bizarre.
Sure. It's just.
But it's also just like, it just sounds like, I will call you a sissy name because I'm such a badass. Or
he can pronounce German. He's terrible at French, but he can pronounce German.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I think maybe it just had to do with that.
Yeah, it's. We don't, this is not a movie that inspires a lot of conversation.
We don't have to keep talking about it. We can give it a grade and move on.
Yep. Okay, let's do that. All right. 3, 2, 1. C minus.
D plus. Somehow I ended up.
I don't know.
We need to have an official.
None of my grading systems make sense.
Yeah, I don't think mine does either. All right, maybe
if I'm dipping into D territory, I have to be like.
Okay, maybe
angry.
I'll say C minus. C minus for me.
If we're in D, I'm a little angry at the movie, and I just don't have that much passion for this movie.
I'm not angry. I had an okay time. I was checking my phone towards the end quite a bit, but just for the time, not being distracted, I was fully taking in the movie, but I was like, how much longer is there in this? All right, John, You've alluded to the stuff you saw over winter break.
I did.
So, care to elaborate?
Let's talk about some more of those.
Ooh.
Yes. Carry on. I just see Carry On. I love the premise. I think the premise is so fun. And it just gets so stupid. Did you see it? You saw it, right?
I saw it. I think I was more positive than you. I gave it 3.5 stars. But we probably have similar objections.
It gets so stupid towards the end. And it just annoyed me so much. It's just the kind of thing where it's like, you got a fun premise. You could just be a little more clever with it. But whatever. Here's a movie that I finally saw because my 3-year-old nephew wanted to watch it. And this is the type of movie that I would put in a D range because I find it morally reprehensible.
No. Oh, damn. Okay. It started off wholesome and I was like, oh, he saw a classic.
Nope. This is a little movie called The Greatest Showman.
Oh, gosh. I've never seen it.
Fuck yourself. Greatest Showman.
What did the 3-year-old get out of seeing The Greatest Showman?
The director of The Greatest Showman can film a musical sequence. It's Michael Gracie. He has a movie.
They should hire him for Wicked.
Well, he's got his next movie was instead a movie that is currently getting the terrible box office receipts that The Greatest Showman should have gotten. A Better Man, the Robbie Williams movie.
I want to see that. I haven't seen that
The reviews are great, and I watched the music's certainly better than The Greatest Showman's music. Apologies to those two dudes who wrote Evan Hansen. But yeah, I'm not.
Don't apologize to them.
Not a big fan of their music. I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but I will never forget seeing La La Land, the movie they also wrote the music for.
Oh, yeah, we watched it together. We
so
dunked on them together.
Do you remember this story? Do you remember that my friend Dave came with us?
Yes, who makes musicals, I believe. Writes
he
musicals.
He and I and our friend Andy wrote a musical in college. And Dave works in primarily now like musical marketing, like Broadway marketing. He works for an ad firm that does Broadway commercials. So he's a big fan of musicals. And we watched that movie, La La Land, a movie that I still stand behind. I think the first half hour and the last half hour, great. The middle's a little boring. But
better than Wicked. We'll say that.
There was a Q&A with the two guys who wrote the music. And Dave was like, I'm sorry, I really want to stay and hear them. And they get to the first question, and I forget what the question was, but it was like, how did you get involved in the project or something? And it was like, my dad's producing the film, and I guess Damien Chazelle was looking for some musicians. And he says, my dad produced the movie, and I just see Dave just went, okay, I'm good, and got up and walked out. Anyway.
Yeah, I just remembered those guys being all of them were kind of full of themselves during that Q&A, and I just found that terribly off-putting. Anyway.
The music from A Greatest Showman is fine. Look, my nephew is a fan. But
I will say David Ehrlich today released his newest Best Of compilation.
It starts with The Greatest Showman song.
And I was like, oh, what is this song? I like this song. And yeah, it was The Greatest Showman.
Anyway, it's not the music that's the problem, and it's certainly not the way they film the dance numbers. It's the fact that making a movie. I'm not the first person to say this, so whatever. But making a movie about P.T. Barnum and positioning him as a hero of the downtrodden and champion for desegregation and racial harmony and good treatment of his employees is the most fucked up thing you could possibly do. I watched that movie, and the entire time, all I could think was that in 100 years, someone's going to make a musical about what a great guy Elon Musk is and present him as like a champion of unions or something. That is how insane this movie has a whole thing, like a whole anti-racism story, because P.T. Barnum loves to hire black people, even when others wouldn't. In real life, just a true fun story. One of P.T. Barnum's earliest exhibits was he bought a black woman. He bought her. Was this during the slavery days? No, slavery was outlawed. He found a legal loophole by claiming he just rented her. She was a either 70 or 80-year-old woman. He promoted her as a 200-year-old woman and claimed she had been the slave to George Washington. But he paraded her around, made money off of her. And when she died, he felt very bad and gave money to her family. Just kidding. No, he did not. He actually sold tickets to her public autopsy.
Oh, God.
So, yes, fuck The Greatest
That's
Showman.
awful.
That movie should burn. But
Damn.
I watched a movie about a man who's a much better man than P.T. Barnum ever was. This movie was about a great
Robbie
hero.
Williams?
Nosferatu.
Ooh.
Count Orlok, a better man than P.T. Barnum in every way.
Wow.
I enjoyed Nosferatu quite a bit. Will it be in my top 10? I genuinely don't know. But maybe we'll talk about it on that episode. I talked enough about The Greatest Showman, so I won't get into that here. Late Night with the Devil. I finally saw it. Finally got over my anger at the AI crap they got in it, and I saw it. It's a really, really fun movie while they stick with the conceit. It's a bummer they kind of drop it at the end. They kind of lose the magic at the end. But the lead performance is great. And I finally saw The Brutalist. And I loved the first half. I'm a little shaky on the second half, but I'm glad I saw it on 70 millimeters on the big screen.
Nice. I also saw The Brutalist in 70 millimeter on the big screen. And yeah, like you, I think... Here's what I think. I think that I loved the... I loved the attempt. I loved the scope of it. I loved that it was that long. To be honest, it didn't really feel long, but it felt a bit thematically disjointed at times. And that's like a thing that I feel like Brady Corbett could improve on. I feel like once he gets into his like PTA phase of his life where he hates all of humanity, I think maybe like he would be more precise about what he's trying to say. But I thought it was great. I mean, Adrian Brody was fantastic. Everyone, like Guy Pearce was phenomenal. It felt great. Like the opening overture and that opening scene from the boat is an all-time classic, I think.
The opening scene is truly wonderful. I feel the same way. I've read and had really interesting conversations with people about what they think the movie is like trying to say, what it's like about. And I've heard such incredibly different things. And I don't know if that's because the movie just has so much food for thought, or if the movie is just kind of muddled at the end. But
I have my opinions. Maybe we'll discuss them at the best of. I also have a theory as to what it is about. But yeah, I think the score is fantastic. I have listened to the soundtrack a few times.
I was
and
listening to the soundtrack, and then something went wrong, and my phone was playing it in the other room for an entire day while I was working on my computer. And so now I'm pissed off because I know then my 2025 like most played, like the same thing happened last year. I accidentally left a thing playing on loop and forgot about it. And so whenever I get those end of year wrap ups, there are always just one song that I was listening to one day.
That's
Mine's
so
just gonna
funny.
be the fucking brutalist soundtrack.
I mean, there could be worse things. I was traveling, so that was the last thing I think I saw before. Oh no, I saw the masterpiece Craven the Hunter. JK, that movie was god awful. Don't watch it. I also saw Carry On, and I thought it was really cute. Like you, I think it sort of, like, you know, it was very silly, and I think I wish it were better about the rules that it itself set out, because I feel like it just kept breaking them a lot of the time, and that kind of felt distracting. And yesterday I saw September 5th, the sort of based on true story of how the journalist from ABC covered the Munich hostage taking during the Olympics of Israeli athletes. I thought it was really, really good. I mean, I'm a fan of like journalists doing journalism well. And the movie is really about that. I feel like if people are kind of worried that it's about politics, it's not. Like it's mostly like about journalists having to make snap of the moment decisions in the moment, and like, do those decisions actually help who they're trying to cover or not? And like and also kind of the resiliency of journalists as they are trying to tell a story. I thought it was great. If you're into, I guess, Late Night with the Devil, I think, is sort of similar in kind of the fetishizing of television production from maybe the 70s. And this one has a ton of that. There's a lot of like care being...
That's a real
like,
double feature for you.
Yeah, but like there's a lady who does the chyrons, and you get to see how they do chyrons in the 70s, and you get to kind of see the level of technology that they were working with and the kind of stuff they were able to get out. So all of that, I thought it was really good. It's been a good year for like solid movies that you would see in the 90s in movie theaters do good business. There was Conclave, there was Juror Number 2. I would like put them all in the same bucket.
Did
of,
Juror
like,
Number 2 do good business?
Well,
'Cause Warner
okay.
Brothers
No, I
basically
said would
dumped it.
do good business in the
Oh,
90s.
that would do good business in the
Yes.
90s. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Twisters.
I don't think, yeah. What?
Twisters as well.
That's true.
I know that's a different type of 90s movie, but...
But yeah, I think I just, you know, I want a movie that's not a franchise. So I guess this one is about true events, but that's not really the same thing. So yeah, that's all I saw.
Juror
I think
number
tonight
2 brought back all the cast from the first Juror.
That's true. I think tonight I will watch Munich again, because I don't know, watching that movie yesterday made me want to rewatch Munich. So check out next time when I talk about Munich.
I've got a bunch of 2024 movies that I got to catch up on. I've got a few that I've got set up to watch. I just haven't had the time to watch them. Maybe I will watch one tonight, but I'm not going to name it, because then if we do the next episode and I don't mention having seen it, then you'll know that I just instead took an edible and played video games.
All right. A solid choice considering your environs at the moment.
Well, I'm not going to go hiking. I'll tell you that much.
All right, John, shall we discuss what we could potentially see in the future?
I would love to do that.
All right. Well, let me actually go to the page where we can do that. I feel like I should have let you talk about playing video games while high some more.
Well, I'll say this. So, we to our listeners, we do an annual best of episode, but we traditionally leave that till early February to give ourselves some time to catch up. Correct?
Yes.
So we're
yes.
not. How about this? Let's look at what the movie options are for the
We're
next
cheating
episode,
already.
and we'll decide if we want to do our best of next episode.
Fair enough. Okay, so our options are more dad energy with American Sniper. We have, I guess like early January or even late January is not a good time for movies. Hide and Seek, which I remember seeing in a movie theater. That's
that?
from what?
What's Hide and Seek?
That's the one with Dakota Fanning and Robert De Niro. It was kind of creepy.
Yes, I remember that.
We have Legends of the Fall, which I've never seen, but have seen many a bedroom poster of Brad Pitt with long hair. We have Beverly Hills Cop.
The first one?
Yeah, the first one. We have Murder on the Orient Express, the one from 75, not the one from Kenneth Branagh. Yeah. We have Goldfinger from 65.
Shoot. Those are some good options.
Yeah. And I think that's it, because that's six pack. So that's what we have.
Gosh.
Do 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 do.
What was the 90s one again?
Legends of the Fall.
I flew Goldfinger or Beverly Hills Cop are both. That could be our tribute to LA.
I mean, I have recently rewatched Beverly Hills Cop, so at the very least, if I don't want to watch it again, I'll remember it fairly well.
Okay, well, we'll figure that out between now and our next episode.
Yeah, maybe there's a survey incoming to our listeners.
Follow our Instagram, follow our YouTube. We'll be posting 2 videos this time because due to tech issues, we could not post the video for our Death Wish episode until now. So this coming week, you will see 2 YouTube videos. If you are already watching us on YouTube as I speak.
So you must have done that already.
Feel free to click. Feel free to click around. The Death Wish episode. If you're only a visual person and have not realized we did an episode on Death Wish, it's available. One of us liked it more than the other.
Mm-hmm. Guess who? And with that,
I like that our options. We're gonna, no matter what, we're gonna be positive in our next episode. Either we're doing our top 10, or we're doing Beverly Hills Cop, or we're doing Goldfinger.
You don't know how I feel about Goldfinger, Jon.
Oh my god, I forgot. Your sister died in that paint by being covered by paint.
I know. It wasn't paint. It was oil, Jon. It was oil.
All right. Let's call it there.
Bye-bye. Toot toot.
So long, thieves, big Nicks and Fraulines.
So long, Panteras and Serbians with no name.
Panteras and AC/DCs and
so long, Coronas. So long, Becks.
Toot toot.
Toot toot. Bye.